husband, Charlie. You wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. I forgive him.
When the judge read the death sentence, the room went silent, except for one thing, the killer's smile. No regret, no apology, just a cold stare at Erika Kirk, the widow of the man he murdered. That moment broke the internet, because this wasn't just a crime, it was a message. And what Erika did next left the entire courtroom in shock. Before that chilling courtroom moment, the world knew Charlie Kirk as one of the most influential and controversial political voices of his generation. Founder of Turning Point USA, he built an empire from nothing, starting with a microphone, a message, and relentless ambition. To his supporters, he was fearless, a man who spoke truths others were too afraid to say. To his critics, he was chaos personified, a provocateur who thrived on controversy and confrontation. Love him or hate him, Charlie was everywhere on campuses, on podcasts, on national TV, drawing massive crowds and sparking heated debates. He turned political activism into a movement, inspiring millions of young Americans who believed their voices had been silenced. But behind the fame, he lived with constant threats, security warnings, and an awareness that speaking his mind came with a price. No one thought that price would be his life. It was supposed to be another fiery campus event, just Charlie, a microphone, and a crowd eager to hear him speak. Utah Valley University was packed, students waving signs, cameras rolling, and Erika sitting front row like she always did. But then, in an instant, the room shattered. A single shot ripped through the air, people screamed, ducked, chaos broke out everywhere. Security rushed the stage, but it was already too late. Charlie Kirk collapsed before anyone could reach him. The shooter, a 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson, had fired from a nearby rooftop, calm and calculated, as if he'd been waiting for that moment all along. Police tackled him minutes later in a nearby parking lot. And while the world tried to process what had just happened, Erika stood frozen in shock, covered in her husband's blood, watching his body being carried away. That one moment turned political tension into tragedy, and it would ignite a storm unlike anything the country has seen in years. Tyler James Robinson, 22 years old, quiet, emotionless, and, by all accounts, unremarkable. No criminal record, no sign of trouble until that day. Investigators later found months of disturbing online posts filled with hate, rants about corruption, and cryptic messages that hinted he wanted to make a statement. During the trial, prosecutors painted him as cold and calculating, a man who planned every move, from the rooftop position to his getaway route. He never denied pulling the trigger. What shocked everyone was his attitude after. In every hearing, he showed no emotion, no apology, no flicker of guilt. Even when Erika Kirk took the stand and described the moment her husband fell beside her, he stared blankly ahead, unmoved. And when the verdict finally came, death by lethal injection, he didn't flinch. No words, no reaction, just that same chilling stillness. For millions watching, it wasn't justice, it was horror. Because even in the face of death, Charlie's killer felt nothing. But the real shock came after, when Erika herself broke the silence and did something that no one in that courtroom could have imagined. The world expected tears, rage, or a demand for vengeance. Instead, Erika Kirk walked to the microphone in that silent courtroom, her voice trembling but steady. Everyone leaned in, expecting a widow's fury. What came out left the entire room breathless. "I forgive him," she said. 3 words that stopped the cameras, froze the reporters, and changed the tone of the story overnight. Erika spoke of faith, grace, and the belief that revenge only feeds darkness. She said Charlie lived by conviction, not hatred, and that she refused to let his legacy be built on bitterness. Some saw it as pure strength, the kind of forgiveness only a deeply spiritual person could show. Others saw it differently, questioning whether forgiveness came too soon, or if it was a strategic move to protect her late husband's image and the future of Turning Point USA. In the days after the sentencing, Erika didn't disappear. She stepped directly into the spotlight, not as a grieving widow, but as the new leader of the empire Charlie built. Within 2 weeks, she was officially named CEO and chair of Turning Point USA, standing behind the same podium her husband once Her speech was powerful but unsettling to some. She promised to continue the mission Charlie started, speaking with the same fiery conviction that had made him famous. But as applause filled the room, critics couldn't help noticing how seamlessly she had taken his place. Conservative supporters hailed her as a symbol of resilience, a woman of faith standing against evil. But whispers grew online. How could someone recover so fast? How could she forgive a man who destroyed her life and then walk into her husband's role as if it had all been planned? Forums, podcasts, and even news panels began dissecting her every word, every facial expression, wondering if there was more to this story than grief and grace. Erika, however, seemed unfazed. She spoke about God's will, about turning pain into purpose, and about keeping Charlie's dream alive. She attended public events, led meetings, and even returned to the same university where her husband was killed, standing on that same stage to give a speech about unity and peace. Cameras captured her calm composure, but behind her eyes, the exhaustion was visible. Every move she made carried a question. Was this faith, or was it pressure, the expectation to be perfect in the aftermath of tragedy? Her forgiveness went viral. Some praised her for choosing light over hate. Others accused her of using her husband's death for attention. News outlets turned her image into headlines, painting her as both saint and strategist. Erika stayed silent about the noise, never addressing the controversy directly. But every time she stepped in front of a camera, it was clear she wasn't just Charlie's widow anymore. She was becoming a symbol, one people couldn't stop talking about. And yet, beneath all the headlines, something darker was brewing, whispers that not everything about the shooting or about Tyler Robinson's motives was as clear as it seemed. Rumors began spreading, claiming connections, cover-ups, and secrets buried behind closed doors. As weeks passed, the official story began to fracture. Online forums and independent journalists started digging, claiming there were too many unanswered questions surrounding the assassination. How did Tyler Robinson, a quiet college dropout, manage to plan such a precise, calculated attack? How did he get onto a rooftop across from a major university event without being noticed? And why did surveillance footage from one of the nearby buildings mysteriously go missing days after the shooting? At first, these questions were brushed off as conspiracy talk. But the more people looked, the more inconsistencies they found. Some reports suggested Robinson had attended several Turning Point events months earlier, posing as a volunteer. Others claimed he had been in contact with political groups that viewed Kirk as a threat to their agenda. None of it was confirmed, but the speculation spread like wildfire. News outlets avoided the topic, but podcasts, YouTubers, and underground journalists filled the silence with theories that caught millions of views. Then came the strangest claim of all, that Robinson had engraved something on the bullets he used that day. A symbol, some said. Others called it a message. Law enforcement never confirmed it, but when images allegedly showing those bullets appeared online, people lost their minds. Theories ranged from political symbolism to personal revenge, but what made it truly eerie was one supposed detail: the letters EK carved into one of them. Erika Kirk's initials. Of course, no official evidence ever verified this claim. Still, that rumor alone set off a storm of speculation. Why would the killer target Charlie, but leave a mark tied to Erika? Was it coincidence, obsession, or something deeper? Some online voices accused Erika of hiding something, even suggesting she knew the shooter before the attack, claims that her team immediately and firmly denied. Baseless lies, her spokesperson said. But by then, the internet had already moved faster than the truth. Meanwhile, inside Turning Point USA, whispers grew louder. Anonymous sources spoke to journalists about power struggles and shifting loyalties since Erika's promotion. Some longtime staffers reportedly resigned quietly. Others hinted that Charlie's death had left behind more questions than answers about money, influence, and enemies within. Erika ignored the noise, continuing to lead rallies and push new initiatives. But her composure only fueled the narrative. The same calm face that once inspired sympathy now triggered suspicion. Every photo, every speech, every social media post was dissected for hidden meanings. Some saw faith, others saw strategy. And in the middle of it all stood one haunting truth. The man who killed Charlie Kirk had already been sentenced to die. But the world around Erika was only growing more dangerous. question was no longer just why did he do it, but who wanted it done. The trial might have ended, but the chaos had just begun. The assassination split the country in half. Supporters called Charlie a martyr for free speech. Critics claimed his movement had gone too far. Cable news turned his death into a political battlefield, while social media became a war zone of blame, theories, and outrage. Every network wanted Erika's reaction, but she stayed calm, repeating one line: "Hate won't heal us." That silence, that grace, only made her more polarizing. Turning Point USA grew under her watch, but so did the backlash. Protesters showed up at her events, online threats doubled. Even within her own circle, people whispered that Erika was too polished, too fast, too controlled. Yet through it all, she never cracked. Her composure became her armor and her mystery. The story had started with one man's death, but now it was about something much bigger: faith, fear, and how far people will go to protect their truth. Months after the sentencing, Erika Kirk stood before another packed crowd, this time not as a widow, but as a leader. Her message was simple yet heavy. Pain can destroy you, or it can define you. She spoke about forgiveness as a weapon stronger than revenge, about faith as the only path through grief. The audience hung on every word. Yet, behind that strength, people could still see the toll. The sleepless eyes, the quiet pauses when Charlie's name came up, the weight of everything she lost but refused to show. Even critics had to admit Erika had become something larger than her husband's legacy. To some, she was a symbol of resilience. To others, a reminder that peace often demands more suffering than war. And though Tyler Robinson's name faded from headlines, Erika carried his shadow everywhere she went. Her choice to forgive him wasn't weakness, it was defiance. In a world obsessed with anger, she had chosen mercy. But mercy comes with a cost. Friends say she still visits the prison chapel where Robinson once Saturday. No cameras, no speeches. Just silence. A woman confronting the man who shattered her life and finding a way to keep living anyway. In the end, justice was served, but peace was never guaranteed. Charlie Kirk's death became more than a headline. It became a mirror, reflecting everything broken in a divided nation. The killer showed no remorse, and the widow showed no hate. Two extremes that left the world speechless. Erika Kirk stood where most would have fallen apart, turning pain into power, loss into legacy. Whether you see her as a symbol of faith or a strategist of survival, one truth remains. Her story forces us to ask who really wins when vengeance meets forgiveness. Because maybe forgiveness isn't about the other person at all. Maybe it's the only way to stop the darkness from spreading.